So maybe you saw the Oscar nominations came out this week, and I thought, perfect. What better time to talk about the Emmys? Stay with me. This isn't a story about award season snubs or putting fake names on entries. Looking at you, ESPN. No, this is a story about access, about internet access. You see, a handful of the big shows that ran away with most of the awards last week, like Succession on Max, which is HBO, and The Bear on Hulu. A show called Beef on Netflix won a ton of awards. Kind of surprisingly, The Last of Us on Max and Ted Lasso from Apple TV, they didn't win anything. That's what everybody was talking about. I mean, they're all great shows, all of them. And they're all on streaming services. In fact, if you look at the main categories like Best Drama, Best Comedy, and the Best Actor and Actress in those categories, of those 37 nominations, only 2 shows can be seen without the internet. Abbott Elementary on ABC and Better Call Saul on AMC. For everything else, you need an internet connection and a subscription. I mean, think of it this way. If you wanted to watch all the shows that were up for those major awards in those major categories, you'd need subscriptions to Disney+, HBO Max, Apple TV, Showtime, Hulu, Amazon Prime Video, and Netflix, not to mention the internet service you have to pay for. If you do the math on that, that's nearly $145 per month if you want to stay up on pop culture and know why this was one of the top Halloween costumes last year. But affordability isn't the only barrier to knowing who Carmi is. It's also accessibility. Here's an example. I got a call recently from a viewer named Susan. She called me at my desk. People do that sometimes. I know I always tell you to email me at dan@WRAL.com, but calling me works too. I spend a lot of time at my desk, and I like to talk to viewers about the stuff that's going on in their lives if I have the time. Susan wanted to talk about one of my Duke Energy stories, and she said something that really stuck with me. She said, when it comes to service, we're literally at the end of the line. You see, Susan lives in Wayne County, right near the border with Sampson County. She called me on a landline that day. If she wants strong cell service, she has to drive into town, into the big city of Newton Grove. The population there, 565 people. While her cell service is spotty, when we spoke, her internet connection was non-existent. According to the state, 98% of North Carolina has available internet, which sounds kind of like a lot. But in a state of 10 million people, that remaining 2% equals about 200,000 people with no internet options at all, and even more without reliable broadband. And you know, the standard nowadays isn't reliable internet. It's this.
High-speed internet, affordable, high-speed internet.
When he wasn't snacking on cookout milkshakes, high-speed internet was one of President Biden's main talking points during his visit here to Raleigh last week. He talked about how North Carolina, frankly, needs more of it because we're lacking. Last month, Successful Farming magazine, they profiled a working farm about 30 minutes outside of Charlotte with spotty connection, the owner saying they're cut off from the world. And that's not hyperbole. He's not talking about Netflix. Modern farming needs high-speed internet. It's all done with computers. Just this week, John Deere signed a deal with SpaceX to connect farmers directly with satellites. Internet's not a luxury. It's a necessity, and it's been that way for a long time. The internet is how farmers manage their crops. It's how we access our healthcare portal after a doctor's appointment. It's how our kids do homework, how we sign up for Medicaid, and apparently, it's how we watch the playoffs now. Recently, the very first NFL playoff game was shown exclusively on a streaming service, Peacock.
The most streamed event of any kind in the U.S.
Now, while those guys were popping champagne over the record viewership, the phones at WRAL were popping off a little differently. Our viewers were less enthusiastic, you could say. You see, even if people have access to broadband, that doesn't mean they can afford it. If we look at that state data, again, of the 98% of people who have access, only 71% are actually using it. It's simply too expensive for a huge part of our population, many of whom remember when TV used to be free. Sure, they showed commercials, but it was free. You just needed those little rabbit ears on top of your TV, and you got all the football games until cable.
I'm ready for some football. Are you?
In 2006, ESPN took over Monday Night Football, showing the first game that required a cable subscription, meaning for the first time, if you wanted to understand Tuesday's water cooler conversation, there was a paywall. Over the next 4 years, it paid off. Cable subscriptions nearly quadrupled. But the internet, well, it's not like cable, is it? It's a little different. It's about more than Emmy shows or the big game. The internet could be the difference between being employed and unemployed, which is why the government has been shelling out billions to expand accessibility and affordability, like ACP, or Affordable Connectivity Program. This gives qualified families a discount of up to $30 a month on their internet service. But get this part. Only 35% of eligible people in our state, in North Carolina, have even signed up. It's been around since 2021, and if you read the screen closely there, the enrollment deadline is less than a month away. Now, if you do click on how to apply, the very first thing it does is it shows you how to apply online with a video that you need to stream online. Is it ironic that the government is using the internet as a primary avenue to help people who don't have the internet? Yeah, it is. Not to mention, the program is nearly out of money. And when that happens, everyone who did sign up will have their bills jacked up to full price. But it makes me think about all of it. Susan in Wayne County, the Emmys, the NFL, cable TV. Will commercialism, will these dollars and culture, pop culture, help drive the expansion of the internet to Susan's house and everywhere else? Or are we being gouged by companies that treat internet access like a luxury instead of a utility? Let me know what you think. Hit me up. I'm working on a lot of stories right now about affordability, so email me, dan@WRAL.com. Or if you don't have internet access, there's that phone number that Susan used. Give me a call. Ask for Dan Haggerty. Tell me what's on your mind, and we'll go in depth.